first graders. Welcome to your TV classroom. Today is Friday, January 22nd. Whew. I am sleepy. Now, we film our videos on different days than they air. And last night, we had a really big windstorm. And I am so tired because I really like weather. And I really love to watch storms. And so the storm happened, and I wasn't ready to go to bed anymore. And I was yellow and excited, and I couldn't sleep. And I was just sitting at the window watching all the trees sway in the wind and looking at my radars and trying to figure out where the storm was going to go. And I'm thinking that was not a very good choice.
But you know what, Mrs. Wally?
I'm tired.
Watching a storm is educational.
It is educational, and it was worth it. But sometimes you make choices and there are consequences to those choices. And sometimes those consequences, great things happen. And sometimes not great things happen. And sometimes you don't like the consequence, but it was kind of worth it. And it was kind of worth it. But my brain is feeling very slow today. So can I fix that happened? Nope. Can I make myself not sleepy right now? Nope, because I can't go to sleep because then I wouldn't be teaching you. So I have to do what responsible learners do and name it. I'm feeling really tired, but I can do hard things. How are you feeling today? What zone are you in? You ready to learn? Get your brain ready to learn. If you're not in the green zone, remember, even though you might not be in the green zone, you can do hard things. Now, if you're in the red zone, I want you to go do some calm down strategies. But if you're in the yellow or the blue zone, you can do hard things. You are in control. You can take deep breaths, and you've got this. Because you're an amazing learner, and you are a strong mathematician. So let's take a look at some facts and see how quickly we can figure them out. Here we go. 10 minus 9. If I have 10 and I take away 9, how many are there? Or I can think about how much space is between these two numbers on the number line. What? Are you laughing at home? You should be. Mrs. Wally did it again. Oh, Mrs. Wally, your brain, you love your brain. Yes, I do. It's 1. Okay. Even teachers make mistakes. It happens. And we forget things, and it's okay. Let's do the next fact. If 10 minus 9 is 1, then what's 10 minus 8? Mr. Kevin showed me it's just 1 less, which is 2. Or I can think about 8, 9, 10, 2. Well, if 10 minus 8 is 2, what's 10 minus 7? 3. I had this. And then I moved one over here. So it's 7 and 3 make 10. What and 6 make 10? Yep, 10 minus 6 is 4. This is the easy one. Are you ready? 10 minus 5 is 5. Ta-da! We did it. And I forgot to press play. That's okay. I'm going to do it now. So, you ready to figure out what we're going to learn today? Are you ready? Today, we are learning to solve problems with 3 addends, or 3 parts. So far, we've just been doing problems that have 2 parts. Now we're going to do problems that have 3 parts. Think you can do it? I know you can do it. Before we begin, let's look at all the ways to make 10, and you're going to help me fill in the chart. What plus 1 is 10? 1 plus 9 is 10. Oh, you remember this, don't you? What plus 8 is 10? 2. Do you remember our pattern? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very good. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Okay. Now we're going to use the left side of the chart to help us with the right side. 4 plus, 6. 7 plus 3. Blank plus 9. Blank plus 2. Did you get it? Did you do it? Did you say the right numbers? Nice job, first graders. We are going to use the whiteboard today, Mr. Kevin, but we're going to read first. Okay. So we're going to read. We're going to figure out what's happening. Then we're going to read, figure out what's the question. And then we're going to read and figure out what information do we have, and then we'll solve. So highlighters ready. But the first read, we don't highlight. Joe picks up 7 pencils. Carla picks up 3 pencils. Pete picks up 4 pencils. How many pencils do the children pick up? What's happening? Yeah, it sounds like there's a room with some pencils on the floor, and these kids are picking them up. Let's read it again. This time, you're listening for what's the question. Joe picks up 7 pencils. Carla picks up 3 pencils. Pete picks up 4 pencils. How many pencils do the children pick up? What's the question? How many pencils do the children pick up? So we're trying to figure out the total amount. We're going to read again, and we're going to figure out what information do we need to use to solve this problem. Joe picks up 7 pencils. Carla picks up 3 pencils. And Pete picks up 4 pencils. What's the important information? Joe has 7 pencils. Carla has 3 pencils. Pete has 4 pencils. Great. Now what do we do? Rashid, what should we do? Pebble, I've got all this information. Oh yeah, we should do a model, shouldn't we? Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Kevin, and go to my whiteboard. So I know I have 3 students picking up pencils, right? I've got J for Joe, C for Carla, and P for Pete. And I know all of these are pencils. Okay, how many did Joe pick up? 7. How many did Carla pick up? 3. How many did Pete pick up? 4. If I want to find the total, what do I need to do with all these numbers? I need to add them together. 7 plus 3 plus 4 equals. Now, strong mathematicians, when they see more than 2 addends, always start by looking for friends of 10. I see it, I see it. Do you see friends that make 10? Look, 7 and 3 make 10. And 10 and 4 is 14. They pick up, make sure you're writing this with me, 14 pencils. We did it. See, it's not that bad. When we use what we know and we stop and slow our brains down, we're strong mathematicians and can figure it out. Shall we try another one together? Okay. They did some of the work for us. So we're just going to do the work right here. You can do it with me along with me on your whiteboard. So they've already made the equation for us, but I want to read the problem so we can make sure that it makes sense. Kaya has 6 red blocks, so there's the 6, 4 blue blocks, and 2 green blocks. How many blocks does she have in all? So they've done it 2 different ways here. Take a look at the first problem. What did they do here in the first problem? They started by adding 6 and 4. Why do you think they chose 6 and 4? Yeah, it's a friend of 10. Okay. And then over here, they did 2 and 4. What does 2 and 4 make? It makes 6 because then it makes a double. Either way works. So what is 10 plus 2 or 6 plus 6? I personally like the 10 plus 2 better. So how many blocks in all? Yes, 12 blocks in all. Great job. So you could do 10 plus 2, or you could do 6 plus 6. There are 2 ways to add that together. Okay, let's look at the next problem. It says, show 2 ways to add. Well, I have 8 plus 2 plus 6. Go ahead and show me the 2 ways you could add 8 plus 2 plus 6. I'm going to give you 1 minute. You ready? Go. Okay, look at the top. What was the first way? They put the first 2 addends together. Why do you think they did that? Because it makes 10. 8 and 2 makes 10, and 10s and some extra ones is really easy. We know our teen numbers. So 10 plus 6 is 16. So 8 plus 2 plus 6 is 16. Okay, what was the second way to put these addends together? The 2 plus 6. What is 2 plus 6? 8. What's 8 plus 8? 16. So what's 8 plus 2 plus 6? Now, if I was to ask you which way was the best way to do it, about half of you would say the friend of 10, and about half of you would say the double, because different people's brains see things differently. It doesn't matter which one you choose. These are both mathematically accurate, efficient strategies. What matters is it makes sense to you and you can do it accurately and fluently. Okay, now we're gonna do some more practice ones just on my whiteboard, Mr. Kevin, because we have a little bit of extra time. And so I want to, not throw my marker around. I'm gonna give us another problem, and I wanna talk about the word addend a little bit. We've talked lots and lots about parts. We always say a part plus a part makes a whole, right? Well, now we can say a part plus a part plus a part makes a whole. Parts are addends. For example, 4 plus 5 plus 6 equals, these friends are parts or addends. Okay? So addends are the numbers you put together in an addition equation. How would you solve this? Go ahead, put the numbers together you'd put together and solve and find the answer. Mr. Kevin, how long have I been going for? Perfect. Okay, you might have said, oh, doubles plus 1, 4 plus 5 is 9, plus 6 is 15. So 4 plus 5 plus 6 is 15. Or you might have said, Friend of 10, 4 and 6 makes 10, and 5 is 15. 10 plus 5 equals 15. Either way, you added 3 parts or 3 addends together to find a total. Let's take a look at our homework for today. Today, you're going to do page 307, 308 in your math workbook. You're going to talk about addends and draw pictures of examples of them. And you're going to practice adding together 3 parts or 3 addends to find a total or sum. Okay? Awesome job. Today, we learned to solve problems with 3 addends. We acted out the problem or drew it. We created a model. We grouped 2 addends and then added the third, and we found the solution. Great job, first graders. Now, before you go, you need to make sure you grab your ELA packet, your pencil, and your learning buddy. Then you're going to have a break, and then there'll be time with Miss Oslin. Have a great Friday. And friends, I will see you next week. Bye.
Hello, my name is Denise, and I'm a violinist with the Northwest Sinfonietta. I'm here for us to share a moment of breathing and listening to music together today. Let's start by getting centered by taking a few breaths together. We're going to inhale to a count of 4, and then we're going to hold our breath for 4 counts, and then we'll exhale to a count of 4. Get comfortable, relax your shoulders, maybe roll your head side to side once or twice, and let's inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold your breath. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's do that one more time. This time I won't count aloud. We can all count in our heads. And if you like, go ahead and close your eyes. Ready? Inhale. Hold your breath. And exhale. Well done. I'm going to play a piece called Fairy Tales for you by the composer Ignatius Sancho. He lived from 1729 to 1780. If you think of fairy tales, what comes to your mind? Maybe magical creatures or talking animals or kids off having adventures. What feelings get stirred up in you by those stories? And how would you express those feelings in music? Do you think the music would be slow and quiet with long singing tones? Or maybe it would be light and fast, like sounds of laughter and dancing? Listen to this piece and notice what kind of feeling Ignatius Sancho expresses with his music. What do you think of that music? It sounds pretty light and happy. You might think that Mr. Sancho really liked fairy tales and that maybe he also had a good sense of humor and was a happy person to be able to write a piece like that. It's amazing to me to know that Mr. Sancho was born in 1729 on a slave ship off the coast of Africa. He faced the world alone because he lost his parents when he was young. Despite being enslaved, he taught himself to read and write and to play music. He spoke out against the slave trade and wrote essays, plays, poetry, and music. Here's another beautiful piece by Ignatius Sancho. It's called Minuet number 15. Ignatius Sancho was eventually freed from enslavement and went on to start a business, a successful grocery store, and to become the first Black person of African origin to vote in England. He was also the first Black composer to have his music published. I hope you've enjoyed listening to Ignatius Sancho's music with me and to taking a few breaths together.
Hi, first graders. Welcome back from your break. Excellent job gathering your materials and being ready to continue with our study of fiction books. You will remember that your job when we come together is to listen, share, read, and write. You are a strong listener when you keep your eyes on the speaker, when you listen to the speaker, and when you think about the words and the story. When it is your turn to share, I do want you to share your ideas. I want you to talk about this book and fiction texts. And if you have someone who's in the room with you, you also get the opportunity to practice your active listening skills because they might have a perspective that's different from yours that you can learn from. Now, we've been learning about fiction texts. Fiction texts come from our author and illustrator's imagination. And while they might seem like they could be real sometimes, they aren't. But strong fiction writers will include elements that make you and I as readers really connect to the characters. They're going to use experiences that we've had or can relate to. Our characters are going to have feelings that you and I have had or can relate to. And today that we're going to learn as writers that fiction writers use structure to include all elements of fiction, which means they use structure like graphic organizers to help them include elements of fiction, such as characters. They're going to have people or animals who the story is about. Setting, which is where or when the story takes place. And then fiction also includes a problem, an action, and a solution. We're going to notice all of those things in our new fiction text today. And then you are going to begin your own fiction text by using a graphic organizer from your ELA packet, making sure that you use structures to include all elements of fiction. Now, the book we're going to read today is Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon, and it's written by Patty Lovell and illustrated by David Catro, one of my favorites. We're going to read through this mentor text so that we can discover how fiction writers, Patty Lovell in this case, organizes her stories using a structure that makes sense to readers. You're going to notice there's going to be a clear beginning, a clear middle, and a clear end to the story. And as we read through, we're going to identify the beginning, middle, and end. We're going to explore what goes on during these parts, what happens in the beginning, what happens in the middle, what happens in the end. And we're going to be introduced to our main character, Molly Lou, and we're going to get to know her, but we're also going to identify the problem and how the problem is solved, the actions of our character. Those are all elements of fiction. So let's read this book, one of my favorites. Molly Lou Mellon stood just taller than her dog and was the shortest girl in the first grade. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, walk as proudly as you can, and the world will look up to you. So right away, our author, Patty Lovell, introduces us to her main character, Molly Lou, right on the very first page. She even uses, if you see that first letter, it's kind of small, but I'll try to circle it here. The big M at the beginning of Molly Lou Mellon. The author provides us with an introduction to Molly by describing her height and her grade. And that big M really makes her name stand out. So right here at the beginning, we're introduced to our character and some details about her. Now, let's keep reading about Molly Lou Mellon. So she did. Molly Lou Mellon had buck teeth that stuck out so far she could stack pennies on them. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, smile big and the world will smile right alongside you. Now, as the story goes on, the author is providing us with more descriptions of her character. Now we know more about what Molly looks like. But we also notice that there is another character who's providing Molly Lou with some perspective. We haven't seen the other character, but who do we keep hearing about? Her grandma, yeah. So it says, her grandma had told her, smile big and the world will smile right alongside you. Now, think about why her grandmother is offering her this advice. She has buck teeth, which means they stick out, and her grandma's saying, smile anyways. Think about that. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Rashid, I'm thinking that her grandma is giving her this advice because if we don't smile because we think our teeth are buck teeth, then we can find a ton of other things to be unhappy with about ourselves. And really, it doesn't matter. None of it matters. We're all amazing. We're all beautiful. Now, let's keep reading. Mr. Kevin.
I was going to add,
Yeah.
Mrs. Osland, that maybe Grandma has experienced some of this when she was little.
Oh, maybe her grandma has this advice because of her own experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. That would be a fun twist. So she did. I love this illustrator, David Catro. We've read a couple of his books here at TV Classroom. Molly Lou Melon had a voice that sounded like a bullfrog being squeezed by a boa constrictor. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, sing out clear and strong, and the world will cry tears of joy. Look at the face the frog is making. So she did. Molly Lou Melon was often fumble-fingered. She didn't mind. Her grandma had told her, believe in yourself, and the world will believe in you too. So she did. Then Molly Lou Melon moved to a new town. She had to say goodbye to her grandma and all her friends. Oh, right in the middle of the story, Molly Lou is moving to a new home and will have to go to a new school. Let's read on to see what the author has done to organize her story and reveal all of the events and experiences in a way that makes sense. And start in a new school. On the first day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Shrimpo in gym class. When the game started, Molly Lou Melon caught the football, ran under the legs of Ronald Durkin, and scored a touchdown. All the children thought, wow, she's good. And Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the second day of school, Ronald Durkin called her Bucky-Toothed Beaver. Molly Lou Melon took out her pennies, stacked 10 high on her teeth, and smiled as big as day. All the children smiled with glee, and Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the third day of school, Ronald Durkin said, "You sound like a sick duck. Honk, honk." Molly Lou Melon sang out a quack, so clear and strong that it made Ronald Durkin somersault backwards, hit his head, and have to go to the nurse. All the children cried with joy to be free of Ronald Durkin for the rest of the afternoon. And Ronald Durkin felt very foolish. On the fourth day of school, Ronald Durkin said that she'd made the snowflake all wrong. But Molly Lou Melon opened up her paper and revealed the most beautiful snowflake of all. All the children oohed and awed, even Ronald. On the 5th day of school, Ronald Durkin brought Molly Lou Mellon a stacking penny for her tooth and smiled at her. That night, Molly Lou Mellon took out a pencil and paper and wrote a letter to her grandma. Dear Grandma, I wanted to tell you that everything you told me was exactly right. Love, Molly Lou Mellon. What do you notice about that illustration?
Ooh.
Mr. Kevin.
Yeah, grandma is a little, yeah, grandma looks a lot like Molly.
Yeah.
Or Molly looks like grandma.
Just like you predicted. She has had some of the same experiences. Interesting. So it seems like Patty, our author, wants us to get to know Molly Lou at the beginning of her story by giving us a clear description of her character. We know all about what she looks like. She also wants us to wanted to reveal a problem to us by sharing that Molly Lou is moving to a new school. Do you think that that would be a scary thing to do? What do you think? If you would be okay with that, I can move to a new school, not scary for me. Give me a thumbs up. And if you're saying, ooh, I wouldn't want to do that, that would be too scary, give me a thumbs down. Yeah, Mr. Kevin and I are in agreement. That would be too scary for me. That'd be too scary. I've done it, and it's pretty scary. So as we read through the middle, the author lets us know that what Molly Lou is doing. She's sharing the events, she's sharing the actions. There's other characters and students that she's interacting with. The beginning and the middle of the story really help us to know the main character, Molly Lou, while also giving us a chance to discover her problem and all the ways that she solves the problem. Now, in your ELA packet, I want you to get out page 17, which is called Putting It All Together, Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon. And I want you to have your pencil. And we're going to use this to help us think about the structure and organization that our author used to tell this fiction story. So, name and today's date at the top. And if we get really close looking at that first box, it says, beginning. How does the author, Patty Lovell, introduce the character to us? What else happens at the beginning of the story? So, take some think time. How does our author introduce our character? And what else happens at the beginning of the story? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you were thinking. Rashid, our author, Patty Lovell, introduced Molly to us by telling us her name and telling us what she looks like. And what else happens at the beginning of the story? Oh, we're also introduced to Grandma, and Grandma's giving Molly Lou Mellon a lot of advice. And then kind of at the end of the beginning, close to the middle, Molly moves to a new school, and that kind of sets up the problem. Now, on those lines, take a moment to write down how our author introduces us to Molly Lou Mellon and what else happens at the beginning of the story. She tells her name. Tells what she looks like. Grandma gives advice. Also, Molly Lou moves to a new school. Now, let's think about what happens in the middle of the story. What events or action make the middle of the story so interesting? And what makes us want to keep reading? Think about that. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Rashid, in the middle is when Ronald Durkin keeps making fun of Molly Lou and calling her names. And the part that's really interesting and makes me want to keep reading is that Molly Lou keeps doing whatever she wants to do anyway. She keeps smiling. She cuts out that snowflake. She stacks the pennies on her teeth. She runs the football in for a touchdown. And she makes Ronald feel very foolish for making fun of her. Now, you write what happens in the middle of the story that makes it so interesting. Now, in the end, how does Molly Lou solve her problem? What did the author include to let us know that? Take some think time. Turn and tell your learning buddy what you're thinking. Rashid, Molly didn't really react to Ronald Durkin, and eventually he realized that he shouldn't be treating her that way, and he gave her a penny to add to her stacking tooth. What did the author include to let us know that? Well, just that Ronald, I think, came around and wanted to be her friend and realized that he wasn't being very kind by giving her a penny. Now, on your graphic organizer, go ahead and write what happened at the end. How does Molly Lou solve her problem? Oh, you know what else I want to add? She takes Grandma's advice.
Grandma was smart.
Grandma was smart. Also brave. The other thing the author includes to let us know is that Molly Lou writes a letter to her grandma. Okay, friends, so we organized our thinking in a graphic organizer where we went back and put it all together and broke down what happened at the beginning, the middle, and the end of Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon. Now, as a writer, you are going to use structures to help you follow a logical sequence and include all the story elements of a fiction writing. And you're going to do that by using, you have two options in your ELA packet. You can use page 15, which has the problem, the action, and the solution. And you could draw pictures in these boxes showing your reader or reminding yourself of what you are going to include for the problem, the action, and the solution for your fiction text. Or you could use page 16, which is just like the one we just did, but it's with your characters and your story. So you pick which one works best for you. And when you're independent, oh, this is your writing. Oh my goodness. Oh no, what happened? Oh, phew. Oh. This is your writing task today. So you're going to first think about what you want to write. Think about how you will draw and write it using those graphic organizers. And of course, you're going to try your best. And then when you are reading today, I want you paying close attention to how the authors in your fiction text have used structure to include the elements of fiction. They use the structure of beginning, middle, end to introduce the character, the setting, and the problem, action, and solution. You can use your word wall to help you as a writer today. Please do send us in your graphic organizers here at TV Classroom that tell us all about the structures of fiction that you are including in your fiction text. And you can email it to us at tvclassroom@tacoma.k12.wa.us. It looks like that. Or you could put it in the mail and send it to us, and our addresses comes up at the end. You could also send it to your teacher so they know what you are working on. Continue tracking your reading goals, reading for longer and longer periods of time. Today is Friday, so you are going to want to get this to your teacher or to us here at TV Classroom, and we will communicate that to your teacher. Now it's time for your affirmation. This is the time of the day when we say positive things about ourselves to build ourselves up before we go off to complete our independent work. And today I want you to remind yourself that I am kind. Even when we're not thinking kind thoughts or we're not feeling kindness in our hearts, that's especially when it's helpful to remind yourself, I am kind. Say that out loud with me. I am kind. Excellent job today, first graders. I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to seeing you back here next week in our TV classroom. Bye.
Hey kids, we want to see your work. Just send your pictures and your stories to TV Classroom, 601 South 8th Street, Tacoma, Washington, 98405.